West Virginia is just one of a handful of states that allows people to carry a concealed handgun without a permit. I'm Gianna Garba, and I'll have that story coming up next.
How has social media impacted the gun reform movement? I'm Megan Guerra, and I'll bring you that story coming up next.
The March for Our Lives is happening in cities all over the nation. I'm Noelle Ford, and I'll give you an inside look at this gun control movement. Our Emmy Award-winning WVU News starts now.
There are around 270 to 300 million guns in America. That's close to one firearm for every man, woman, and child. I'm Megan Beshara.
And I'm Kendall Lewis. In this special edition of WVU News, we'll examine issues from gun carry laws to boycotting the NRA.
These stories and more on this edition of WVU News, Gun Control, A Nation Divided.
A Pew Research poll shows that Americans are more divided on gun control than gay marriage or abortion.
And the mass shooting at a Parkland, Florida high school had students there leading the nation in one of the largest youth-led protests in U.S. history.
Noelle Ford joins us now in the studio with more. Noelle?
Thanks, Kendall. 5 weeks after a shooting at a Florida high school left 17 people dead, the students of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School took matters into their own hands. The students organized a March for Our Lives rally on March 24th in Washington, D.C. This protest sparked a movement across the nation. Similar marches were held in all 50 states. I went to Pittsburgh, where officials were expecting 3,000 protesters, but 10 times that amount hit the streets.
March for Our Lives in Pittsburgh drew a crowd of over 30,000 people. Protesters are asking for more gun control laws after 17 people died in a Florida school shooting.
My 12-year-old son has some anxiety issues, and he tells me, Mommy, what if they shoot at my school? I'm scared.
To see people go to school and not come back from school because they died from guns, like, that's insane to me.
10,000 Americans lost their lives to gun violence last year alone. However, there has been no action from Congress. That's why students are taking matters into their own hands.
What happened in Florida and all of the other school shootings in this country, it just has to stop. And I just want to say that I'm really, really proud of this generation finally slapping their pencils down on the table and saying enough is enough.
The next protest that students are planning is a national school walkout on April 20th, the same day that the Columbine shooting took place 18 years ago.
As time progresses and as activity increases, I feel like more change will be implemented.
And while D.C. was the anchor for these protests,
We call BS!
there were 846 events like this all over the world, and the message was clear. Students call Washington's inaction on gun violence unacceptable.
A gun bill just signed by Governor Rick Scott allocated more than $25 million to replace the building at the high school where the shooting happened. If you would like more information on this movement, you can visit their website. The link is at the bottom of your screen.
In 2018 alone, there has been over 3,000 deaths from gun violence, including 144 children and 593 teens. I went to the March for Our Lives event held in Morgantown to find out how people are reacting to these numbers. On March 24th, there were 846 March for Our Lives events globally, one being right here in Morgantown. House of Delegates District 51 candidate Danielle Walker said a fire lit in her when she first spoke at the Charlottesville Visual and hasn't stopped fighting gun violence since.
I am here to take a stand for children, my children, and other children. It's a shame that our children have to go through this and look up to adults and legislators to make a change. We went through Columbine, to Parkland, to Sandy Hook, no more.
Patty Strobel also feels that there needs to be a change after her daughter, who is a school teacher, lost one of her students from a school shooting.
My daughter teaches school in Florida, virtual school, and she lost one of her students that day. And this is personal. There's got to be a way of a compromise to get our kids safe. There's got to be.
In 2018 alone, there has been 49 mass shootings, the worst being the Florida Parkland school shooting, where 17 were killed and 17 were injured. The Parkland gunman was armed with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. This gun was also used in the Orlando, Florida nightclub shooting, the Las Vegas concert shooting, and the Sutherland Springs, Texas church shooting.
We need to protect our children. We need to protect ourselves. Yes. The answer to gun violence is not more guns.
Protesters urged for universal background checks on all gun sales, raising the ownership and possession age to 21, closing of the gun show loophole, banning assault weapons, and banning the sale of high-capacity magazines. High school freshman Taya Gaines led more than 300 people in the march through Morgantown.
The march started at the WVU Coliseum, then went to Suncrest Middle School with a loop back to the Coliseum.
Is the NRA responsible for gun violence? Following the Parkland shooting, a boycott emerged on social media against the gun rights advocacy group.
And through the use of social media, the NRA boycott continues to grow. Lexi Marara joins us now from Social Square to tell us more. Lexi.
Thanks, Megan. The NRA boycott is gaining traction since it began in February. To date, more than a dozen major companies have cut ties with the NRA. But how do local residents feel about the boycott?
The hashtag boycott NRA has been trending on Twitter with over 2.1 million hits after the Parkland, Florida school shooting left 17 people dead. This has caused major U.S. companies to cut ties with the NRA. But how many Americans are on board with these decisions?
I don't want to give up my gun. So this is really scary to me. I want them to stay around.
We do have a Second Amendment for a reason, and I also think that the NRA, they cannot predict someone's act of violence and their mental state.
I don't agree with neither one of them. I think that the problems start at home with the parents.
And it's for that reason that shooting survivors have turned social media into a way to get their word out and to help keep gun control in the headlines. Monongalia County Commissioner Tom Bloom says how important the social media advocacy is.
I'm so proud of him. For years, we've not seen this activism, and I'm really glad that it's coming again. And that's why, that's why we moved when I was long time ago pushing the voting age down to 18. I'm so glad to see they actually are doing something, and hopefully something's going to change.
An AR-15 just like this one here was used in the Parkland shooting, and ever since, survivors have taken to social media to call out companies that offer special benefits to the NRA. And as a result, Walmart, Kroger, Enterprise, and Dick's all announced their relationship with the NRA is over.
Teenage shooting survivors have turned the hashtag boycott NRA into a nationwide movement, and the NRA is firing back at the 18 companies, saying, quote, "It's a shameful display of political and civic cowardice," end quote.
The NRA claims 5 million members and takes in tens of millions of dollars each year through its supporters. The money is used to fight gun regulations. Hashtag Never Again created a movement following the Parkland shooting that has raised millions of dollars, attracted celebrity support, and pushed the issue of gun control into the national spotlight. Megan Guerra joins us now from Studio B at the Media Innovation Center to tell us more. Megan?
Social media is revolutionizing the way Americans talk about gun violence, and some say public outcry on social media is becoming a new form of activism. Consider these facts. 140 million tweets are posted every day. There are over 2 billion monthly active Facebook users, and 95 million photos are posted to Instagram every day. And there's no denying it, social media is playing a huge role in the debate over gun control.
There have been over 180 shootings on school campuses since Sandy Hook in 2012. The more recent shooting in Parkland, Florida had survivors speaking out on social media, and even speaking to President Trump, spurring a national social movement to keep students safe and guns out of schools.
I'm not going to hear those students' voices unless they're covered on the national news and traditional media, but now I can go on Twitter, and even though I don't follow a single student of Parkland, Florida, I see what they have to say because I have friends who do that retweet it. I follow journalists that retweet it, and so I'm hearing their voices and the voices in response to them.
So far in 2018, there have been 16 school shootings, which averages out to about 1 every week. With news being accessible on all social media platforms, it makes it easier for just about anyone to stay in the loop.
Hashtags like Arm Me With, Never Again, and March for Our Lives have brought people of all ages together to stand for a cause.
I think social media is effective, quick way to communicate with a lot of people at the same time. And what I'm really impressed by is how the students, these young people, can use that so much more than some of us older folk.
I think it's really penetrated like our generation with younger people, especially people who may not be as aware. And I think it really doesn't let it leave your conscience, no matter if you're on Twitter or Instagram or anything, you see things about it.
Through this movement, younger people are being encouraged to register to vote with the hashtags Vote for Our Lives and March to the Polls in order to create change in their communities and the country.
An online petition is available for those who support stricter gun laws, including banning the sale of assault weapons. To view and sign the petition, you can visit the website at the bottom of your screen. Back to you at the Waterfront Studio.
Thanks for that report, Megan. The March for Our Lives petition currently has over 360,000 signatures. Well, that wraps up this week's Social Square Report.
Thanks, Lexi. West Virginia is just one of 10 states that allows residents to carry a concealed handgun without a permit.
The constitutional carry law applies to anyone over the age of 21. Reporter Gianna Garba has more.
According to a national survey, 7.5% of the adult population reported carrying a gun for protection. Keith Morgan helped write this law for these reasons.
Firearms are the true equalizer of force, and ultimately force, it can come down to force. There's evil in our society.
Within the last year, the number of concealed handgun permits soared to over 16 million, a national record. And some local gun owners say that carrying a gun allows them to take protection into their own hands.
I feel confident with it, I'm comfortable with it, and I feel if a situation would arise that I would be able to defend myself or anyone else and be able to end a situation.
A survey conducted by NBC News says that almost half of Americans own guns. 72% of gun owners have a handgun, just like this one. Morgan says in the wake of recent shootings, people must realize it is your own responsibility to protect your life.
Whether you live or die in one of those situations, that choice is yours and yours alone. And it's not well known, but there are multiple Supreme Court decisions that actually state that law enforcement has no duty to defend you.
West Virginia has been a permitless carry state since 2016. Gianna Garba, WVU News, Morgantown.
For more information on West Virginia gun laws, go to the website at the bottom of your screen.
And the gun debate continues. Should teachers be armed with guns in the classroom? The nation is torn.
But first, Caroline Floorback tells us what we can expect from university officials in the case of an active shooter.
What happens if a shooting takes place right here at WVU? I'm Caroline Floorback, and coming up next on WVU News, I'll tell you how the University Police plans to keep our campus safe.
For me, it all started with a question. Why? It drove me to look deeper, try harder, think bigger. No way? Yes way. I took that question to a place where the possibilities are endless. It all started with a little question, a little why, and a little why not.
Welcome back to our special edition of WVU News, Gun Control, A Nation Divided. On average, there's been one school shooting per week so far this year.
This has many asking if campus officials are prepared for an active shooter incident. Caroline Floorback joins us now in the studio with more. Caroline?
Thanks, Kendall. A gunman opens fire on campus. What would happen? Well, the University Police Department is prepared for the unthinkable. Shootings at college campuses over the last 7 years have more than doubled. That's why the WVU Police Department isn't taking any chances. University Police Chief Bob Roberts says their officers are trained to move towards the sound of the gunshots and get to the shooter before he harms anyone. After Columbine, police strategies changed from surrounding an area and waiting to the current procedure of police entering the building immediately.
They set up the perimeter and they were waiting. A lot of people got shot, and you know, if you learn lessons from other people's incidents, then you don't repeat them.
Police say you have 3 options when dealing with an active shooter. First, run away from the shots if you can. Second, if you are trapped, hide and silence your phone. And as a last resort, fight back, only when your life is in danger.
Thanks, Caroline. Schools all across America are holding active shooter drills. In fact, 9 out of 10 public schools now drill students and teachers to respond to mass shootings. But what does this type of drill look like? I visited one local school and found out. North Elementary School Principal Natalie Webb has a daunting job: how to protect her 800 students from the possibility of a school shooter.
These drills just give our students an opportunity to understand the importance of being quiet, to not be scared, to listen to their teacher, follow directions, and be informed of what they need to do in the instance that we did need to evacuate the building.
During a lockdown, teachers are told to remain calm, lock their doors, and draw a curtain to prevent someone from looking in.
I think it's unfortunate that our kids have to go through this nowadays, but I am thankful that we do have them. That way, if something does happen and there is an emergency, they'll know what to do and hopefully not be too frightened.
Over 24 school shootings have occurred just this year. Students here at North Elementary and across the nation have learned to prepare for an intruder. And in the era of school shootings, school lockdown drills are becoming routine for kids as young as 4 years old. And 9 out of 10 public schools now drill students and teachers to respond to mass shootings.
When I was little, we used to practice for tornado drills. And I'm really sad that we now have to practice for intruder drills. But I guess it's the state of where we are in society right now, which makes me really sad.
Teachers and faculty follow the ALICE method: alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. 32 states have now passed laws requiring schools to conduct lockdown drills to keep students safe from intruders, and 6 states require specific active shooter drills each year.
Are there other ways to keep our schools safe? Some believe arming our teachers with guns in the classroom is the answer.
Although the idea may seem radical, at least 14 states already allow teachers to carry guns. However, is arming our teachers with guns the answer?
Since recent school shootings, teachers all over the country have had to rethink safety in their classrooms. Teachers have become more than just educators, they're now protectors.
All my kids have a partner and a hiding spot. The hiding spots are like as out of the way as possible, underneath tables, behind chairs, holding stuff up over them so they're kind of invisible. I have somebody who closes the blind, and my job is to lock the door, put down the curtain, and barricade the door.
Social media movement #ArmMeWith has teachers showing what tools they would rather have for their classrooms instead of guns. But some say that a gun is the tool to stop an intruder.
Basically, when you bring a second gun to a gunfight, that's when it stops.
A Pew Research study says 55% of U.S. adults are opposed to teachers carrying guns. However, 45% say it would be beneficial for the safety of the students. Aside from having intruder drills, safety directors say simply listening to the students can make a difference.
We ask staff members to make sure that they're just listening to kids. So a lot of times they hear things before anybody else hears things. We also try to educate our students to, if you hear something, say something.
An article by the Huffington Post says that students will be afraid knowing that their teachers are carrying guns. Other sources say it will distract from learning. Mariah Congito, WVU News, Morgantown.
President Trump's proposal to arm teachers in response to school shootings has sparked a national debate over whether it's safe to expect teachers and school staff to act as the first line of defense in the event of an active shooter.
The clear bag policy has been implemented for all WVU athletic events, but is that enough to keep fans safe and to keep weapons out?
Sports reporter Caroline Peters tells us more coming up next.
I'm Caroline Peters, and straight ahead on WVU News, I'll tell you about some security measures our university is taking to keep our sporting events safe.
Roll to record, ready, buffer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
WVU News is local, in-depth, and always on the move.
for you.
Straight ahead on WVU News, I'm Kaylee Gunderson.
I'm Cameron Bostic, and coming up on WVU News,
I'll tell you why miners are fighting to save their livelihood. Our Emmy Award-winning...
And it's always on YouTube, on the web, and on the Reed College of Media website.
$1,500 benefiting the organization Empty Bowls. Emily and Paige, back to you.
track it, roll it, take it, bug in, music up, fade in, bumper, ready camera 2, take graphic.
WVU researchers recently uncovered a scandal that rocked Volkswagen and its consumers. I'm Emily Flecker.
A national first-place Emmy Award-winning college newscast taped at the Waterfront Studio at West Virginia University.
Learn about the quality of your drinking water using hashtag WVU Streamlab. The 6 sensors are closed-in bottles tied to a rope and attached to cinder blocks. That way they stay protected and in place. To support the Mountaineers, and for many games, it's often sold out.
The user fee passed last month is named the Safe Street and Safe Community Center.
Colleges are required by federal law to provide safety protocol on campus, but not all students are aware of the policy.
The scientists reported their findings to the EPA in May of 2014 using a device like this one to test.
Stay in the know. Stay connected. Watch WVU News.
Welcome back to our special edition show, Gun Control, A Nation Divided. One former WVU athlete was a victim of gun violence himself.
Stedman Bailey was an All-American at WVU, and now he's bouncing back. Sports anchor Ben Murray has more. Ben?
Thanks, Megan. Bailey now finds himself trying to get back to the NFL by attending Pro Day, where he talked about gun violence and his journey to recovery. It's been 3 years since Stedman Bailey was shot twice in the head, leaving him in critical condition. In October, Bailey had surgery to put a steel titanium plate in his head, and now he refers to himself as the Man of Steel. He's hoping to catch the eye of NFL scouts by participating in Pro Day. Making it back to the league is something that Bailey still has his heart set on, a goal that has never wavered, even from his hospital bed. Doctors questioned if Bailey would be able to walk again, but after multiple surgeries, he made his recovery and hopes that people can learn from his experience.
And I just wish, we as people could just do better, just try to help one another, spread positive energy.
Bailey was first drafted in 2013 by the St. Louis Rams. He's been in contact with multiple NFL teams, but as a free agent, he hopes to get the attention of many teams with the draft coming up on April 27th. The WVU athletic department is doing everything they can to keep their players and fans safe. Sports reporter Joel Norman joins us now in the studio with more. Joel?
Thanks, Ben. The numbers are staggering on how many fans attend WVU sporting events. Up to 60,000 for every home football game and 14,000 at each home basketball game alone. That's an enormous responsibility to ensure the safety of all fans and players. And in addition to the clear bag policy, WVU has discussed adding metal detectors to keep sporting events safe. In order to add metal detectors, budget adjustments would need to be made. 4 schools in the Big 12, including Kansas, Kansas State, Baylor, and Oklahoma State, currently have metal detectors at their games.
The only way that you're really going to ever get that full confidence is if you go to a walkthrough metal detector.
This past season alone, WVU spent around $250,000 on security measures at games.
Thanks, Joel. The clear bag policy is now in effect at all ticketed athletic events. The majority of the Big 12 members have already adopted the clear bag policy at sporting events. Well, that's all for this week in sports.
Thanks, Ben. It's good to know WVU is doing all they can to make sure our sporting events are safe. Well, that's going to do it for our special edition of WVU News, Gun Control, A Nation Divided. You can visit us online on our website.
You can also watch our shows on YouTube, and please follow us and our reporters on Twitter. I'm Kendall Lewis.
And I'm Megan Bashara. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.